If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.
He's here. He will begin his Baltimore sports media audition, brought to you by Hooters. In 3, 2, 1, hit it.
Okay, so I figure everybody's going to be talking about Jim Thome and the Orioles, so I'm going to change it up, go with the Ravens, go with my favorite team, what I'm really passionate about. And I want to start with Joe Flacco on the offense, and Joe Flacco really faced a lot of unwarranted criticism, in my opinion, last year. He did have some bad losses to Seattle, the Titans, the Jaguars, and the Chargers, but when you look at the way Seattle finished the year at 5-3, including the loss, you know, they're projected, some people are already projecting them to overtake the 49ers in their division. So they're a very good team, and I don't see that as a very bad loss. And Flacco was kind of inconsistent last year, but I think what really contributed to that was the defensive talent he was facing week in and week out. In fact, in the regular season and postseason combined, he played 12 top 10 defenses. He played the Steelers twice, the Browns twice, the Bengals twice, the Texans in the playoffs and the regular season. Then you got the 49ers, Jets, Seahawks, and Jaguars. His totals in all those games, he completed 55% of his passes, 2,411 yards, 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I'm sorry if he's not putting up Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers-like numbers, but he just doesn't have a full, experienced core of weapons around him, and the defenses he's playing is just unreal. He did play very well against Pittsburgh this year. In the 2 games combined, he threw for 524 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. That's really good to me. And one thing that I think is really going to help this Ravens offense next year is Jacoby Jones. Now, do I think they were a Jacoby Jones away from the Super Bowl last year? Absolutely not. They were a Lee Evans drop pass away from the Super Bowl last year. And then the Billy Cundiff missed field goal. You know, that was a killer. That was, you know, took me a couple weeks to get over that. But the reason I think Jacoby Jones is really going to help this offense is mostly because of Anquan Boldin. Now, since Anquan Boldin came to the Ravens, he's been productive, but not overly spectacular. He's averaged about 862 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns in his 2 years here. And Jacoby Jones, Torrey Smith, they finally have 2 really fast receivers. I remember in the days, just a couple years ago, they had Mark Clayton, Derek Mason, and Kelly Washington. 3 possession receivers that couldn't really stretch the field. The only time I can really remember Derek Mason going deep was in 2008 against the Titans in that playoff game. So I think having Jacoby Jones on the outside with Torrey Smith really will help the defense back up, and if you put Bolden in the slot, linebackers are going to have to concentrate on him, linebackers, nickel safeties, all their attention on him. Thus, that gives Ed Dixon and Dennis Pitta more room to work. And second-year receiver Tandon Doss has apparently looked really good in mini camps. He's recovered from that double sports hernia injury, so he's going to be really good. When he was coming out of Indiana 2 years ago, his biggest strength was catching the ball and accelerating up the field. From what I saw on tape, kind of like Julio Jones from Atlanta. Not quite Julio Jones, but still an exciting talent that I'm really looking forward to seeing. In fact, Joe Flacco handpicked him for the draft. If you haven't heard this story, Cam Cameron gave Joe Flacco a tape of receivers, about 5 to 6 receivers that they think they could target in the later rounds, and he basically said, pick one. And Flacco picked Tandon Doss. They seem to have a really good chemistry in the preseason last year, so I think that's really going to help. I'm not really worried about the offensive line. They have a good mix of veteran leadership, and youthful talent. So I think the offensive line is going to be fine. Jim Caldwell is really going to help Flacco a lot. You got 2 rookie receivers in Tommy Streeter and Deontay Thompson out of Florida that are really lighting things up at mini camps. So I really like the way this Ravens offense is going. 2, as I said, 2 speedsters on the outside, 2 guys with a unique blend of size and speed. So I think that's good. Moving on to the defense. Obviously, everybody knows the loss of Terrell Suggs hurts, and I'm a little bit less optimistic than a lot of Ravens fans. Pernell McVie had a breakout year last year, so did Paul Kruger, but really they were on the field a lot of the times Terrell Suggs was, and he got a lot of double teams that opened up a lot of opportunities for them. The Ravens do have a lot of youth and talent at the linebacker position, such as Sergio Kindle, who I think has a better chance, more potential than Paul Kruger. I know that sounds crazy since excuse me, Kindle hasn't seen the field yet. I think Kindle is better at stopping the run, and I know that still sounds crazy because he hasn't played a game, but in college he had 36 tackles for a loss in his stint at Texas, so he's a fantastic run stopper, someone who can really rush the passer, and I think he can have a great year in pass rushing situations, third downs, if he can get back on the field from that skull injury, from the fractured skull. I think the secondary this year has a chance to be one of, or if not the best in the league, depending on if Ed Reed comes back. With Jimmy Smith, Lardarius Webb having a breakout season next year, arguably a Pro Bowl selection last year, was kind of snubbed in my opinion, but still a very good cornerback. You saw a lot in the playoffs. They moved him to the nickel. They put two guys, in Jimmy Smith and Kerry Williams, on the outside to deal with bigger receivers. So I really like that combination. And according to some statistics by Pro Football Talk, or I forget the exact name, Lardarius Webb actually allowed the second lowest completion percentage in the league among cornerbacks, next to Darrelle Revis. So he's a very talented young corner that's going to be around for a long time. He said he wants to make Canton, which might be unlikely, but we'll see. I like where he's going. The third cornerback spot is a little bit of a mystery between Graham, Gore, and Brown. Shockey Brown being a late-round selection a couple years ago out of Texas. Danny Gore played very well towards the end of the season last year. Played on the outside a little bit, played on the inside, played everywhere. And then Corey Graham, of course, came over from Chicago. Also a good third cornerback option. Obviously going to help our special teams. I like that addition a lot. And I was listening to some auditions, and I was hearing a lot of people talking about Pernell McVee. He's going to have to compete with Arthur Jones for the starting defensive end spot in that 3-4. I think Jones has the edge there. He's a little bit bigger. Pernell McVee is around 280 to play the 3-4 defensive end. I think you really need to be around 300, 310, that type of thing. Jones is right around that weight. He was actually pushing Corey Redding for the starting spot last year. And I actually have some interesting background on McVee. He didn't start playing organized football until his senior year of high school, where he recorded 75 tackles, 35 of them being for a loss, 19 sacks, and an incredible 12 forced fumbles. He went to Pocohoke High School, and that's a very good high school team historically. So he was playing against some very good competition. Went to junior college, where he led the entire nation with 30 tackles for a loss as a freshman. I mean, that's unreal. So we went to Mississippi State. He absolutely dominated there, was constantly double and triple teamed, and still made plays. As I said before, for the special teams unit, I think Corey Graham is going to help. Sean Considine is going to help. According to Brandon Iamdedejo, some of those younger guys weren't really willing to play special teams as much. They didn't really like it. So I think Corey Graham, Sean Considine, good additions, good character guys, high energy, passionate guys, the type of guys John Harbaugh really covets. But looking at the schedule, I think it's very difficult. The hardest stretches are week 1 through 3. You got the Bengals at home, then you travel to the Eagles, to Philadelphia, then you come back home for the Patriots, and you have a short week to play the Browns on Thursday. Next you got the Chiefs in week 5 through 7. Starts off with the Chiefs, go all the way to Dallas, and come all the way back home for the Texans. Weeks 11 through 13, you got the Steelers away, the Chargers away, and then the Steelers at home. I think that's going to be absolutely brutal. I mean, we've always struggled with the Chargers, particularly in San Diego. If it wasn't for Ray Lewis making that stop on Darren Sproles a couple years ago on 4th and 2, I think we would have been winless in our past, 4 or 5 trips out to San Diego. Then you finish it with Denver at home, Giants at home, and then Bengals away. You got the 2 Mannings back-to-back at home. Peyton has always seemed to beat us there. Eli with the receivers he has and the pass rushers, Jason Pierre-Paul, he's arguably the best defensive end in the league, or going to be very soon. You got Justin Tuck on the other side. I mean, they have so many pass rushers, and with a veteran offensive line that might not be as agile, as quicker as they would be, that's going to be a tough one. But overall, I see them going 10-6 this season. Schedule is tough. Secondary can be very good, but they're going to be tested very early with the Eagles, with the Patriots, with the Bengals.
If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.